Welcome to the Moto podcast, where we bring you stories from veterans and first responders and their experiences. The good, the bad, the stupid, and of course, the funny. I'm your host, Mark Camp. Let's dive right in. Today I'm joined by Chris Yeakel, a never former Marine, but Marine Corps veteran and individual I had the pleasure of serving with in 29 Palms and lovely 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. No shit.
That's right.
We got in last night pretty late because we both were doing things and didn't get to experience too much of Bothell, Washington, where we're at now. But you said you don't actually live here. You work in the city of Bothell, but you don't live here.
Yep. So my office is here in Bothell, but I live up in Lake Stevens, which is maybe half an hour north of here or so. Yeah.
What kind of drew you to coming out to Washington?
Well, I grew up here, so I've lived in Washington my whole life, other than being down in 29 Palms. So, and I didn't grow up far from where I live now. I grew up in Mukilteo, which is just probably 20 minutes north of where we are right now. So pretty close to home.
Nice. Not that far of a drive to see family and all that stuff, and still maintain distance.
Yep.
I do like that proximity to Seattle Airport. I think I do a lot of traveling. I think that's like a number one, is just being able to. And I went on a run today, and that's how I experience cities normally. And went on a run, and everybody was pretty nice, but I came across a person that was on the spectrum, if you will, and he literally, we made eye contact. He stopped, turned around, and as I was about to pass him, he put up a fist. And normally I don't touch people, that's weird.
Sure.
But you could tell he was on the spectrum, and so I was like, either way, I'm probably gonna get like some sort of superpower or something like that. I don't know, but I fist bumped him, and I could tell it made his day. But no, I'm joking. I'm not joking. No. So let's get right into it. You're from Washington. How was your early childhood like? What was that like for you?
It was good. I mean, I think pretty normal childhood, I suppose. Good upbringing. Mom and dad were together the whole time. They're still together. Felt like I had pretty good parents that cared for me well. Have a sister. Went through school, did the whole thing.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Nice. Yeah. What kind of drew you to, going the military route, or how was that something that was planted in your mind pretty early onset, or was it just like something? I've heard a wide spectrum of individuals joining for different reasons. What was yours?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think that answer. I mean, I've been asked that question. I'm sure you have too, 1,000 times. And I think my answer has changed a lot as I've gotten older and as I've reflected more. But the simple answer is that I think 9/11 played a good role in my life. I was only in, I think, 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th grade when that happened, but it was a pretty vivid thing for me, and I think that was a big factor in drawing me to the military and to serve. And then I think, as I look back and think about it, the Marine Corps specifically really drew me because it seemed like, the toughest thing, the toughest boot camp, right? And they seemed like they had the most honor, I guess, out of all the branches and whatnot. And I think because of that, I wanted to probably prove to myself that I could do something like that. And I guess make a point. So I don't know. That, among other things, I think were components of my interest.
Yeah, I'm sure I've told you, I was a recruiter for the last stint of my time, and you come across a wide range of individuals joining at varying times. For you, what was that? Was that a tail end of your high school, or was that, where was that established? You're like, this is what I'm doing 100%.
Oh man, dude, that was probably like freshman or sophomore year of high school. My best friend's grandpa was a commander in the Navy, and so we hung around him a little bit, and he had a huge influence, and tried to convince me to go into the Navy. Again, this was freshman or sophomore year of high school, but I kind of made my mind at that time to go into the military, and I think probably mid-sophomore year or something like that, I started going to like the Poolie functions and whatnot. I 16 years old. I wasn't even close to being able to join yet, but started doing that with the local recruiting office and hanging out with, people getting ready to ship out. And so it was kind of early, to be honest. And then I, joined the second I could when I turned 17 or whatever that was. And left for boot camp 24 days after high school.
That's awesome. And had you ever left the state, or had you ever left the country prior to enlisting?
Yeah. I mean, I had definitely left the state, gone to, just different traveling and whatnot, limited, and been to Mexico and Canada. So not really like hardcore international travel or anything, but
North and South America.
Yeah, exactly. So nothing crazy, but.
Right. What was that experience like? So you get done with high school, and then you go directly into boot camp. Sounds like it from the timeline of you starting to be involved in the pool functions around sophomore, junior year. You go directly after high school, ship off to boot camp. Of course, San Diego, because West Coast.
Yeah.
What was that like for you as far as like? I mean, I don't want to focus too much on boot camp.
Sure.
We've all heard boot camp stories. I used to have a saying, I think I got it from one of you guys, either you or Luby, that'd be like, you get one boot camp story, say it now. I never want to hear anything else about boot camp ever again. But like, just in general, just for the audience that might not know, what was that like for you? Because Marine Corps is the longest boot camp with 13 weeks. And, it is a culture shock.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was fired up about it, honestly. I was pumped to get out of the house and go do that. I really wasn't homesick or anything. Yes, it was a culture shock and stuff, but I feel like I asked a ton of questions to other people ahead of time to try and, mentally prepare myself as much as possible for what was coming. So, it wasn't as earth-shattering of an experience as I might have thought, but and again, maybe this is just looking back 15 years later or whatever, but yeah, it was great.
Time definitely warps the memories.
Oh, for sure.
I did we'll get to talking about deployments here, but I did a Q&A with Dalton Cross, somebody from my peer group, and it was really interesting. We combined, he sent out a bunch of questions, we did our typing of our answers, and kind of collectively shared that, looked at it, and it's interesting how much it changed for every single person, kind of skewed a little bit. Memory is such a wonderful thing when you study like from a psychological standpoint.
Right.
But anyways, so yeah, boot camp, pretty much a breeze, and then all of a sudden you get sent to the stumps, 29 Palms.
Yeah.
Was that something that, correction, let me backtrack, actually SOI. So how was that for you? And did you choose, actually, let me backtrack just one more time. Did you choose to be infantry, and what drew you to that route? Or did you go in as an open contract? Did you go in and then, as some people say, my recruiter effed me over?
Yeah.
I heard a lot of those stories.
Yeah, so I definitely, I selected infantry. I think I was open infantry, so I didn't have like a specific, I was 03XX or whatever. And I'll backtrack too, and I'll say that it's not that boot camp was easy. Boot camp was not necessarily easy, but made it through, right? Yeah. SOI, similar story. I mean, I think that was pretty freaking hard at the time, with all the hiking and stuff, and what drew me to infantry. I think that was similar to the Marine Corps in general. Is just that was kind of the pinnacle of war fighting. Obviously you can think about like special ops and stuff like that, recon, but that was maybe a little bit above what I was thinking. So I don't know. I just want to go do war fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know if you experienced this, but you had to be a high ASVAB, score.
I don't think
at
it was
least
that
in
high.
general, and at least in GT,
Yeah, it was like 69 or something like that.
Yeah, but there's quite a few just jobs open to you, right?
Yeah.
And of course, my recruiter, at least I can speak from my experience. I don't know if it's true for yours, but he was at 03, and he was like, "Don't do infantry." Like everybody literally was trying to get me to do something else.
Really?
Yeah, because they have UH is the contract for infantry. It is all, as you said, open unless you go reserves. I don't know. For anybody that's listening and looking and saying, "Oh, I got a 0341 contract or a 0352 for different MOSs," it actually goes to only reservists getting that. Like that's the only time they get that exact MOS code.
Oh,
So
interesting.
everybody's actually open UH. I just
Gotcha.
feeding that little tidbit from the recruiter side.
Yeah.
No, so what was your, also backtracking a little bit, what was your family's, were they supportive? Were they against it? How do they feel about you? One, joining the military, two, going to the Marine Corps, three, going infantry.
Yeah, no, I think that they were super supportive of everything. Never got any pushback. And, that was one thing that made me super comfortable about pursuing anything in life, not just the military, but even things after the military or before. One thing my dad always said was, I really don't care what you do. I'm going to support you in whatever you do, as long as, you're happy with what you're doing. And so, yeah, I think they were fully on board with it. And, I've never really asked my mom this, but I'm sure she was probably, quietly not thrilled, maybe, but she never did not show her support.
Yeah.
Right. So what was your second question there?
Oh, just you kind of answered all of them as far as Marine Corps, military, Marine Corps, then going infantry. Because a lot of times I have dealt with a lot of parents that were like, I'm okay with them joining the military, just go to the Air Force to go another route. I'm okay with them joining the Marine Corps, but nothing to do with being combat, all that stuff. So I say that because I had a lot of pushback from my side. My mom ended up being very proud, of course, after graduation, seeing how much work you have to do to earn the title.
Totally.
But yeah, so talked a little bit about boot camp and SOI. How did you get? I have a funny story about how I got selected to go, not selected, but kind of recruited to go 0341. Was there a process for you, or were you just like they were asking for people, and you're like, that sounds interesting?
Oh man, that's a good question. Talking about memory, I feel like I don't really remember a ton about SOI or how that process went. It might have been one of those things where it's like, oh, you got a slightly higher ASVAB score, so you can be a tow gunner or whatever. I don't remember what in particular drew me to that or how I got in that position, to be honest. Yeah.
Fair enough. The only reason why I bring that up is because I have a very vivid memory. I had a sergeant combat instructor his full last name is Kalashnikov, but they called him AK. And the moment he found out that I was Russian, he's like, Vlad, you're gonna be a mortarman. I was like, I don't know what that is. You shoot things with warheads on top of foreheads, and I was like, okay. So it's funny. So
that's awesome.
You finish SOI, and then you discover that you're going to 29 Palms. I came about to going to 29 Palms because a person backed out of that spot. Again, some of these things are very fresh, and I heard that 37 was one of the last units going to Afghan. How was that for you? Was that just like, oh, you just got your orders and then?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think there's just like so much ignorance at that level. I don't think I asked a ton of questions. I don't think I really knew what was going on from like what unit is doing what. I was just kind of along for the ride almost. I didn't know anything about 3-7. I didn't know whether they were deploying or not. I had heard that 29 Palms was not a great place to go. So, but I was like, okay, cool. This is where I'm going, rock and roll, and got on the bus. And I do remember getting there late at night in the dark. I think it was probably in the middle of the week or maybe on a I don't know. Anyways, bunch of the senior Marines out on the, catwalks calling and stuff. And that was a little intimidating for sure. Right. But, it was an experience going from kind of a very structured boot camp and SOI with maybe a little more freedom to the fleet and thinking you have more freedom, but then really having no parameters on the leadership involvement in your life, right? Like you get quote unquote hazed in boot camp and SOI, right? But it's all very controlled and stuff.
Yep.
And you get to the fleet and it's just a bunch of lance corporals being, jackwagons, and they'll do whatever. So that was a little intimidating, but it was cool. And then when we found out we were going to Afghanistan, I was fired up. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. So,
pardon me. The running is coming back up. Stomach. So you said it was a little intimidating. I mean, when I look back on my time as a junior Marine, I wouldn't say it was a little intimidating. I would say like you just went through boot camp, being 13 weeks, earning a title. Then you go to SOI, something I think substantially harder because I'm going to say it, we have hills, we have mountains in California as opposed to North Carolina. They got the bugs. I don't know. I'll hear about that later. And then you hit the fleet, and you think you've made it now twice. Another gentleman I interviewed, we're talking about really high highs and really high lows.
Yeah.
And so can you kind of elaborate or expound a little bit more upon like you hitting the fleet, what that really felt like for you? Because it is, I can explain it. I've explained it in the past, but it's just interesting here because it's a complete culture shock again. You're going through one after another, and especially infantry. I have to say this. I have to specify this because I've heard great things. My nephew's motor transport out in Okinawa, and he joined his unit. It's very nice,
Sure.
But being a junior Marine is something that,
Yeah, man. High highs, low lows. I mean, I think I definitely felt the high highs of graduating, both boot camp and SOI. But, getting to the fleet, I think I also remained humble enough in my own mind to know my place, and not to think that I was, this great person just because I did these little things to get there. But yeah, it was not a fun time at the very beginning, being a boot in a freaking infantry company with a bunch of seniors who had just got back from a super intense deployment in Afghanistan. A lot of hazing, which was kind of to be expected, but there was, definitely some just, I don't know, mental hazing aspects of it that you couldn't really have predicted, I suppose. I don't know if I can point to any specific examples, but
you don't need to.
It was just a wild ride, and that was probably the bigger culture shock than boot camp itself,
Yeah. It's the way I really think about it, and it's more fondness. And I used to say this to my junior Marines after, of course, that first deployment. It's kind of like you have a tribe of guys, sometimes girls, whatever, that just went off, did 7 months in the shit, and then they're coming back and you're something brand new, and they're trying to see if they could trust you.
Yeah.
So it's like a test. It's like a constant testing that's happening through that workup cycle. So how was that for you in that testing cycle of the workup, like the daily day in, day out grind, sometimes not coming back to your barracks room for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I figured out pretty quickly that it was a lifestyle, right? It's not a 9-to-5 job. It was for sure a lifestyle. Sometimes, we would go and get off work a little bit early or sit in our barracks room all day until they told us we could go home. And then other days, like you said, we're in the field for 3-4 weeks at a time, working on the weekends, training on the weekends, whatever. So I think it was just kind of figuring out that was the expectation. That was the lifestyle of it, right? Especially as an infantryman. And yeah, it was day in and day out. And I'm sure you experienced this because I feel like this is a part of that culture, but I think we all took pride in how hard our days were or whatever, because it was always some kind of a contest of, oh, well, I had it harder. Oh, well, we had to do this. Oh, we had to go on this hike when we came on. Blah, 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 blah. It was always who had it harder. And I think internally we took pride in how difficult our lives were, maybe to an unhealthy extent at points, but yeah.
That is a common trend that you see is like, oh, Yeah, the old breed. You know, I think it's something that I love. I love that book by E.B. Sledge with the old breed. I think that paints a really interesting dynamic, but it's such a shorter cycle if you think about it, because
Yeah.
they're there the entire time. There's no breaks. I mean, it's so much
Right.
respect for that generation. But it's like you see these new guys come in, and it's with that. It's like, oh, you don't know how bad we had it on Paleolu, on and they're coming in and they're just doing the Okinawa, or the different campaigns. And I find that to be so true. Like the guys that are the old breeders saying, you don't know what it was like in the past.
Yeah.
But the side thing to that is, I think it's really beneficial, because when you're supposed to make the next generation's life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Sure.
I think, take the dumb leadership that you saw, the bad leadership, whatever, and really try to fine tune it to be the best thing, so they don't have to deal with the BS that you dealt in the past with.
Right.
And
And I think, I mean, half of, so you're talking a little bit earlier about kind of the day in and the day out, and, seniors coming off deployment and trying to see if they can trust you, right? I think half of that was, to your point, trying to pass on lessons learned and make good junior Marines. And the other half was a bunch of jackasses that didn't know what good leadership was, and just tried to make people's lives difficult because that's all they experienced, and they thought that was the way to do things.
Yep.
Which I could probably sit here and talk about for hours about, looking back and reflecting on leadership and what I experienced in my own leadership, and how guilty I feel afterwards, looking back on things and recognizing that, being older now. But yeah, I think it was a split of people not knowing how to lead and just being asses versus actually trying to develop good junior Marines,
Yeah. I really did try, but it's funny. One of the first guys that we had on the podcast was actually one of my junior Marines, and I was like, I have to start there, because, I mean, like you said, you feel a sense of guilt, but it's like you're a 19, 20-year-old kid, or sometimes 21, coming back from your first deployment. You just experience a shell shock of shit, and you're still trying to cognitively decipher everything that just happened.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with that, but then on top of that, now you have junior Marines under you that you have to prepare to make sure that they survive.
Yep.
So it's a multifaceted thing. I find that to be so, so for all the guilt that I might have felt, it's like, at least they all came home. It's that's allowing myself leniency to get off, but at the same time.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's a big difference though between, like,
Oh, the jackassery.
yeah,
Totally.
hazing somebody in a way that is going to make them better, and just doing it because you don't know anything else and you don't care what the result is. You just want to be in power or whatever.
Yeah, power trip.
As a freaking, I'm a senior lance corporal, some stupid stuff like that. So, yeah, long story short, I would have changed the way I did things substantially looking back now, but hindsight's 20/20, and 15 years later. So
Yeah, but I think that's really good to have that. That's some people I've spoke to, and there's some of those people that I've spoke to that don't have any of that. Like, I wish I could have done things a little bit different. But at the same time, I don't regret what I did, because I learned from it. I wouldn't be the man I am today without it. But there's some people that don't even reflect on that and say, no, I did everything right.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. Like, it's just that conceited nature. That's the ones that I'm like, yep, I'm sorry, but you're never gonna be on this podcast. It's about learning and growing.
yeah.
So you go through, and who's your MDR wasn't there yet, right? CDR? No.
Nope, he was not there at the time.
You don't need to, I just was curious about that, if we knew mutual anybody, because I don't want to start name dropping.
Sure.
How was that? So your workup was how long approximately before you deployed?
Dude, I almost always get my dates wrong, I feel like, but
You don't need to do dates, just approximations, because I'm the same way.
yeah, I mean, I think that I got there in like February-ish 2000, maybe it was January 2011, something like that. And we would deploy in, I mean, it must have been, I guess we would have gone in October of 2011. So 10 months or so, unless I'm getting that wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was 2011 we deployed, and we can obviously confirm that somewhere. But yeah, so 10 months, 10-month workup, I suppose, something like that.
That's a pretty long one.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, towards the tail end of my time in 3.7, I think some of the workups were like maybe 8 months at the most, the cycle. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, pretty long.
Yeah.
That one with you guys felt like forever.
Uh-huh.
We'll get to talking about that. Maybe it's just because it's again distortion of memories. In the time you linger on the things that suck more. Yeah. I find that to be very true. Like the time passes slower when you're going through things that suck.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
We'll talk about the Spartan race and all that, but I mean that's kind of just fun too. But so you finish up this workup, and you know you're going to Afghanistan. You love-hate relationship with your seniors or lance corporals, and you are about to deploy. What type of mindset are you going in with for that first deployment in Afghanistan? Especially some of the things I've read and heard from another gentleman that actually was on that deployment was pretty not the greatest.
Yeah. I mean, mindset's always been a huge thing for me, whether I don't know how much I crafted this on my own or not, but I think I've always had a very positive outlook on things and think through kind of worst case scenarios in every situation in life. So I say that because I went in fired up to go and do this with my friends and with our, senior Marines and whatnot. And by the way, a lot of the bad ones had actually gotten like kicked out or they were just not coming. So, there were some not cool ones that we deployed with, but not the really bad ones. Yeah. So it's pretty, I was pumped up, felt comfortable, felt confident, as confident as you can. But I also had the mindset and told myself that, okay, I'm either dying or I'm coming home without my legs because that is all we trained on was the freaking IED threat over there. Yep. I feel like that was, probably 50% at least of the entire training we did was around IED detection and prevention and whatever. And so did I actually believe that I was going to die or have no legs? Probably not, but I would tell myself that in my head. Like, okay, one of us not coming home, or coming home without a leg. So I think that made me at peace with that, I guess is my point. You know what I mean? And, I had a very strong faith too. I still do. Yeah. But that, I think, brought an immense amount of peace and comfort into, whatever was going to happen was going to happen. So, yeah.
It's that part about making peace with your death. I find that such a interesting thing when you compare with a lot of, because less than 1% have ever served, right, in the military. And you compare that thought process, it's very foreign to civilian population, or at least individuals that have not been in war-torn countries or anything like that, where you have to you essentially write your will at 18, 19, and you're prepping that, you're accepting the fact that you might not come back.
Right.
It's such a weird, I spoke about that after my first deployment with one of my buddies, and he just was like, that's not normal. Yeah. It is to us. Yeah. But to that, I think it's such an interesting. But yeah, making that piece is in those IA drills and running through, definitely vital. So you get to Afghanistan. What Helmand province?
Yep. Sangin. Same place that we went on the second one. Yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah. Different fobs and stuff, but yeah, same exact area.
And based on your expectations versus reality, what was that like?
Oh, that's a good question.
You're prepping for all these IEDs, and 50% of you, like you said, the workup was.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was very. The IED threat was exactly as it was painted to us in training. What was unexpected, I was thinking that we would probably have a little more kinetic activity, more firefights and stuff, and there wasn't a tremendous amount of that really at least in the area that I was in, there was a lot more. I don't know if you remember, like the green zone.
Yep.
There was a lot of activity in there with some of the other line companies. I don't remember who, India, Kilo, Lima, whoever was over there. But us being in weapons company, we were kind of in the brown zone. It was a little bit less kinetic, which I was surprised about. But the IED threat was insane.
Yep.
It was freaking daily. I mean, we, found, I don't even know. There's so many, and so many went off. So that was very accurate to what we trained for. Yeah.
Did you guys have a gym the first? Because your second one, my first one, that gym was actually pretty nice, which I seldom use because I'm a runner. But
Yeah. No, it definitely, it was very different, the first deployment from my second deployment, because we were not on FOBs. We were on patrol bases and outposts. Yep. And so our first one that my platoon was in was PB Dashed, I think it was called. And I mean, it was just you remember those mud walls and stuff,
Yep.
right? I mean, it was just a big compound with no buildings on the inside, surrounded by mud walls and, some posts. And, like those tents that we would set up or whatever for like a little, I don't remember what they're called, like a little command and control center or whatever. But there's no gyms, from what I remember, nothing like that. I mean, it was a very small place, and I think we might have like freaking, ran around the interior of it for exercise, and but I don't think there was any kind of equipment, from what I remember.
how did you? I guess where I was going with that was, how'd you pass the time in between, or was it constantly on the move?
Yeah. That's a good question. There was zero downtime, it felt like. And that is something I remember very clearly. There was no freaking downtime. And this is something that always kind of frustrates me thinking back on. But, we would always be on rotation of either you're standing on post, you're on patrol, or, supporting something. And I remember there was a period of time in the deployment, I think it was November, probably like late October through early December or something, when there were some serious casualties. We took a couple KIAs and some other, just wounded guys that we had to send home, right? And we were so freaking short on people that I remember going, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 weeks, sleeping less than 4 hours every single night. A period of time where it was like 2 hours a night. I remember a couple instances where I'm not exaggerating this at all, but literally awake for 3 days straight, 72 plus hours straight. And so there was no downtime at all, especially during that time. But even when we were kind of fully, I don't know what you call it, plussed up, when we had the right amount of people, right? If there was even a second for downtime, they'd have us doing dumb stuff.
Yep.
Go move this freaking pallet of water bottles from this Connex box to that Connex box. Why? For what reason? We couldn't ask those questions, right? We just freaking did it. Go fill sand. Well, why? It was just to keep us freaking busy. But there was never time for resting or relaxing or just having some freaking reprieve. And that kind of pissed me off looking back on it, because I don't think that was a very good way to take care of people who are on limited sleep and stressed out, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that was kind of the first part of the deployment, I would say. And then things kind of shifted a little bit as we moved to different COPs and PBs and whatnot.
Hate and discontent wins wars.
For sure. And maybe that was part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I summarized that. So I just got done watching Yeakel. Just rewatching. I don't know, something brought up, and it's the last scene I'm reminded of, where all the guys are starting to get letters, and like there's some Dear John letters, and the sergeant major goes up to the gunny and says, "If you want me to do a policing the mustache, routine, I'll do it, just to get the morale back up." And I found that to be like the most profound thing about that series. That was so freaking accurate, because it's true. You're like asking, why am I doing this dumb shit?
Yep.
And in reality, they're there is a reason to it, but you're just trying to learn. I think that's so true when you're a junior Marine. You're trying to ask. You're intelligent. I'm intelligent. When you're an intelligent Marine, not low ASVAB, you're asking questions like, why am I doing this?
Right.
What purpose is this serving?
Yeah.
And I guess some things you just realize it's just hate and discontent.
Yeah.
It just wins wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys spent about 7 months there?
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Who did you guys rip Toho with? What unit? Was that? You don't know.
I
just
don't
curious.
remember. I think maybe like 3-5. I think that we
They got
relieved.
fucked up pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing because,
Yeah.
again, my memory is skewed, but I feel like it was 3-5, but I could be wrong.
One of my favorite things, and I bring this up just at the forefront because I'm not originally from, United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first time coming to America, you hear in the intercom, pilot coming on, welcome to the United States of America. And to me, that's always been something very special.
Yeah.
So how was that return process for you, like coming out of, a very daunting, very time bearing deployment workload to coming back to the United States?
I remember bits and pieces of it. One thing I pretty clearly remember was when we started breaking down from some of the cops and PBs and pulled back to one of the I think it was Fob Nole, and I remember feeling a little bit more at peace that we were there and we were coming close to the end. And I remember like starting to count ammo and start turning things in, and just feeling like, oh my gosh, like we're almost done. That I very clearly remember was kind of a cool feeling. And then I remember pulling back to Leatherneck, because you got to go through a couple days of decompression or whatever there and start the transition back home. Don't really remember too much after that. I mean, we got home, had to do more, what do you call it, decompression time, I guess. Yeah. Go see the
admin.
psych,
Yep.
And you do all the admin crap. And there's probably a tremendous amount of drinking involved at that time. So, yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like, from what I remember, a super difficult transition coming back, because you're just still with your buddies, drinking, talking about it, and then, went on leave and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember coming back that whole, you're still around your buddies. I remember coming back, this is my second or third deployment, I believe. This is my third deployment, and, I'm living off base, and so I, pack up, give my gear, do this stupid stuff, go home, immediately was like, I need to go back.
Yeah.
I need to go back to barracks. And, there's something, it's really interesting. I was so fed up with them. I did not want to see them. But the moment you're back and you're at home and you're by yourself and you're sitting and everything,
Yeah.
I think it was a matter of hours. I ended up driving back to barracks just to be with the guys. So I think it's really interesting because I had my first deployment, I had that experience of coming back and being in a setting full of the tribe,
right,
the brothers. And that, I don't know why I bring that up, but it's something, it's very true, that camaraderie, even though you've been around each other, and just finally coming back and being at home, being in a place where you're not getting shot at. I mean, unless you're going to Compton or something like that, but
yeah.
It's just a different mindset. So what was that mindset shift for you as far as, we talked a little bit about junior Marines and that mindset about you being the junior Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long from you coming back, decompressing, leave, all this stuff, to you becoming a senior Lance Corporal, as it's not accepted anymore?
Yeah. I don't remember, to be quite honest, like how soon we got our first boots or whatever. I mean, I guess it couldn't have been too long after. Maybe we had like a month of downtime before we started another workup cycle or something like that. But yeah, I don't remember the timeline exactly, and I don't remember what that first drop really look like, other than probably being an ass and, you know, running through the barracks and making them do dumb stuff, because that's, again, like half of all I really knew at the time.
Yeah.
You know. So, and then things obviously progressed as we did our workup and got deep into things. Yeah.
Yeah. The modeling aspect of it, it's what you see. You know, you see a model in front of you, you're gonna end up emulating that. I found that to be very true, for the good or the bad. You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
Sometimes it is the bad, like the drinking. I can attest to is something that definitely you get blitzed.
Oh, yeah.
30 racks going out.
Yeah. Every weekend.
Yeah.
Every single freaking weekend, and most weeknights.
Yeah. And every PFT, every CFT.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was crazy. Crazy times for sure. I look back on that and I'm like, I don't even know how we functioned.
Yeah. Going back to going on leave, I asked this because I've had my own experiences on it. Was there anything from your family, your friends, that they just started noticing a little bit different, or was there? I only say this because when I came home and I told my buddy, my best friend at the time, you know, some of the things that we encountered, all this stuff, and kind of looked at me, you know, side-eyed, like, you know, something was wrong with me, you know, like, and my family, of course, knew. They're very intuitive, immediately that something was off. Was that something that was hinted to you, or
I don't
was that
think
even a
so.
thing?
I don't think so, really. You know, the one thing that I can remember very clearly is I was super freaking jumpy, jumpy after the deployment for probably like a year, because I hit 6 or maybe 7 IEDs in trucks on my first deployment.
You guys had mine rollers at that point?
We had mine rollers, yep, and, you know, so 7 different explosions. I think me and Andrew Day, hit like the most in the entire battalion. But because of that,
were you guys trying to set a record?
no, no, I think that some people probably thought that,
Yeah.
but anyways, because of that, I mean, I was just super freaking jumpy at every little, you know, bump or bang or door slam or whatever, and I think that was pretty clear for a while, but you know, I didn't really feel the need to like tell war stories or anything like that. I also didn't really just share my experiences in general with people, not because I was trying to, you know, hide it or anything. As I think I kind of just inherently knew that everybody else is probably not going to understand my experience, so I'm not going to really share it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there was probably a huge noticeable difference, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. From that experience, I learned the same exact thing, where maybe not everybody understands. And I mean, again, this person was my best friend at the time, and you wanted to know,
Yeah.
you know, genuinely, and getting that reaction definitely put me in, all right, we don't ever talk about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and along those lines of the war stories, like I'm not a big fan of war stories. You know, there's some guys from your peer group, which we'll get to in a second. And I don't even remember their names. That's how much I shut them out, because I was tired of hearing it. I was like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to serve. That's the number one thing. I'm not here to kill people. Like, if I have to for my brothers, that's 100%. But I'm here to serve. I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
I have to bring them up. I mean, you can't talk, you know, about that 3-7 era that I, myself being junior Marine, and a lot of the peer group that might watch this or listen to this, and not talk about MDR and that entire workup.
Yeah.
So how different was the previous command to this one?
You know, I think I was, again, on the first deployment, a very ignorant, young, I guess I probably would have been a Lance Corporal still at that time, but, you know, I was just a young Marine and ignorant to the big leadership things going on. So I don't think I really knew even our company commander super well, from what I remember. But yeah, it was definitely a big shift with MDR.
Which I said the acronym like 10 20 people are going to know who it is, but for those that are listening, it's actually, at the time, it was CDR,
CDR
Captain David Russell.
Yeah.
Individual that came from MARSOC, wanted to be with, I guess, I don't know, Captain, again, with the infantry, and I would definitely say ran that pre-workup kind of like MARSOC in that mindset.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I've thought about him over the years after getting out and being older and reflecting on some of that stuff because I feel like he was a very hated person and a hated leader. And I remember, some guys talking about at the time, like, oh, this is a strategy. I read this in a leadership book that, his goal is just to make us all hate him. So we're, coming together with one focal point of hate or, something dumb like that, which maybe was the case. But yeah, he ran a freaking tight ship. Yep. He made us do a lot of stuff that nobody wanted to do, which I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. He did not allow us to be comfortable.
Yep.
He pushed us at every level, I mean, the staff NCOs, his lieutenants or whatever, and then the NCOs and junior Marines even. And there was a lot of hate and discontent that came from that guy. But I think that, looking back, I think that made us a lot better, It was, not a fun time.
Yeah. I think that was by far the hardest work. I mean, anytime you do something for the first time, but when I look at it and compare them overall, I think that was by far the hardest workup that I endured. Because you're doing these things called Man-X Mondays. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
For hours on end, just whatever. I remember going around the base of 29 Palms, just trying to GPS land nav with a time limit.
Yeah.
And you had run, swim, run type of things. And, I don't know, carrying tires, whatever. But it's just the intensity or the length of those.
Right. How did we do those every Monday for a long time?
Every Monday.
And it was different every time?
It was different every single time.
Because
he had a very, how do I word this? He had a very particular way of finding people's breaking points.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in
I just
years.
remembered because you're talking about that.
Yeah.
DR, yeah.
I think the only particular instance of those that I remember was kind of like what you're talking about, like running around. And I remember there was like a bunch of different stations or something, right? Like you would have to, run to this place and okay, you're doing ground fighting against like two guys, and then you run to this station and you got to do dis-NAS of an M4 or whatever, something dumb, and then maybe another one was moving a 50 cal or something like that. And then I do remember kind of like it was almost like a company-wide grappling thing or something.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's kind of the only things I remember about those Man-X's, and I can't remember if that was on one particular day or if that was on multiple occasions, but
yeah. Man-X Mondays were that, and then the grappling was a separate day from my recollection.
Okay.
So it was something completely different. It was a Master Guns that was Master Guns or Master Sergeant? I don't know. He's a big dude, but really big into McMap or whatever. Maybe I'm misplacing, and it's all convoluting together.
Yeah.
But, let's take a break for a second. Walk me through, so we didn't talk too much about your first deployment and the implementation of, you were still in CAP? I'm going to say the acronym, and if you could kind of spell it out for anybody that doesn't know, CAT, we moved to mobile assault platoons, MAP.
Yeah, and I think it was, a little bit weird how we were structured on the first deployment, and I don't remember specifically, but yeah, I mean, originally we were CAT White, so Combined Anti-Armor Team White. What was the second part of that question? And
then the second deployment with MDR CDR at the time coming in, he restructured it to be more. I remember it being mobile assault platoon 3.
Yep.
Which you were one of my senior Marines, having Lieutenant Nelson at the time.
Yep.
and Staff Sergeant Bastero. So what was that? If you could recollect the changing from going to doctrinal cat platoons to mobile assault platoons. How different? Because in a standard, you have cat red, cat white, and then 81's platoon, right? With MDR coming in, he essentially said 81's, we need to be in the kind of hip fire or direct lay, so you're going to operate as dismounts. And sometimes he even integrated, like I believe it was Corporal Keys by the time we deployed was a dog handler, but he was also an 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Keys, what you like got switched to being an 11? He was a 52.
He was a 52? Okay, so who do we have that was, I thought we had 11s as well.
We did. We had a good handful of them, like Ronnie Brewer and Juan Aguayo and there was a bunch of guys that came over from 3-4 on the first deployment that were 11s and got integrated for whatever reason, but yeah, so good question. And again, speaking from an ignorant standpoint, I didn't know a bunch of war doctrine and stuff back then from a higher level, but I don't think we really acted as a traditional weapons company or cat unit on the first deployment even. I mean, maybe to an extent, we were rolling around in trucks and in sections, right? But we would also do a ton of freaking dismounted foot patrols, and so it was always kind of pivoting to whatever the needs were at the time. We had our own AO. We supported some battalion operations as kind of a traditional weapons company. But we also managed our own area quite a bit. And so again, that consisted of mounted patrols, foot patrols, and whatever else. I don't remember too much about the shift to the quote unquote map stuff. I remember people bickering about that, probably because people just wanted to hang on to the name Cat White, But yeah, I don't remember too much about that transition or what that meant, to be honest.
Comparing I think I asked this already, but just in the scheme of white space training, because again, I don't know why officers love white space. I get why, because it keeps people busy and preoccupied with whatever. Did you notice a shift or kind of more of it being done in the second workup, or
I think
vice
so.
First?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Because now you're no longer just the boot that's getting told what to do. You're the individual that's kind of overseeing in a leadership capacity.
Yeah, I think that it was still a fairly intense workup on the first one, for sure. But again, being a boot, you're just doing what you're told. On the second one, I think I would agree that was a way more intense workup, no doubt about it. I think there was a lot less downtime, way more involved, a lot of white space training. I mean, it was, every second we got, we were doing something, right? Yeah. And I think I was a lance corporal and then became a corporal before we deployed, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And so, you start to have a little bit more leadership capability and responsibility to, train the Marines at your discretion. And so I remember doing some, what I thought was useful white space classes on my own, like, what did we call it? What was the medical stuff? What did we call it?
Casevac
9 lines.
TLC, wow. Now you got me going. CLS.
Yeah,
combat lifesavers.
Yep, that's right. Yep. So I remember doing a lot of that stuff. And I don't remember what your recollection is from that experience, but I think that we were still expecting the second deployment to be very similar to our first deployment with a lot of IEDs.
I remember you guys harping that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
Very much so. And it's really interesting, speaking as a junior Marine, and you brought this up a little bit from your experience, but coming into that, I didn't like any of you guys. I did. I'm sure you guys didn't like us, whatever, but I did not like. I was like, I'm never going to talk to any of these motherfuckers when I get. But the one thing that I did hold on to, and you kind of mentioned this, I'll say directly, which is the fact that one of them actually said, I don't remember who it was. They said, I've actually been here. I've actually been to the place you're going. So if you don't want to die, if you don't want to lose your legs, listen to what I have to say. It's like the biggest whiff him right? What's in it for you?
Yeah.
What's in it for me? That you could possibly give to anybody.
Yeah.
You're going to combat zone. This is what we experienced the previous time. You want to live, listen.
Right.
And I think that's kind of summarizes that for me.
Yeah. I think that's what we trained for. I
Yeah.
remember, there's a lot of the, tourniquet drills and stuff like that, and rendering aid, and I don't remember, and I don't know if this needs to get cut out or not, but doing the live tissue.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was with you
Yep.
guys or on the first. That was the second. Okay.
I did live tissue my first one.
Okay.
First workout.
Okay. And I only did that one time, so it must have just been on that second workup that we did then. So yeah, I mean, intense stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And then only to leave the wire once or twice on that deployment. Yeah. So that was interesting, kind of a letdown, but
Yeah, a little bit. But that was the live tissue. As much as PETA and Mothers of America might have gotten involved and canceled that, we're still going, I'm sure. There's so much confidence that I gained from actually seeing something that's not human. Again, it's a pig, which again, the organs are very similar. But actually seeing the effects of what it's like if you do a gunshot wound, a shotgun, whatever, and you have to apply that aid, the confidence that you build from that. I mean, I get they're slaughtering animals, whatever, but they're gonna go to slaughter anyways, and they do it humanely. They put them under anesthesia,
right.
And the amount of confidence that I felt like, okay, now if I'm actually in a tick or in a situation, I can genuinely say I'm there. I can save your life.
Absolutely.
And that can't be overstated.
No, I think that was, looking back, the single best piece of training, the single best training exercise that I ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree. I gained a ton of confidence from it. And yeah, I mean, it was very shrouded in, trying to not highlight what we were doing. And I don't think I've ever even really told anybody after the fact, after the military, about that, because they'd freak out probably, even if they're not super, PETA or whatever. Just kind of an intense thing to do, but yeah, you and I know it was humanely done. So
yeah, my mom was a nurse, so she was one of the few people I told, and she was like, "That's really interesting. Like doctors should be able to have that type of, because when they're brand new, of course they have." Anyways, we got into the entire, but she really was like, "That's such a invaluable thing you could possibly go through." One of my favorite things from that workup, memories, was, do you remember that MDR would quite literally turn down motor transportation and just make us hike? I literally asked one of my buddies, who was an S4 supply, and one of their vehicle dispersing, whatever, I don't know, guy in S4. I was like, why are you guys not picking us up? Like, what's going on? We keep getting told by the command that the vehicles are inoperable. He's like, dude, we had that ready to go. We had that ready and loaded to go pick you guys up, and got a command from Whiskey 6, CDR at the time. You don't need them.
Yeah, that was a very frequent thing, I remember. And, I think we were coming back from, maybe it was just I don't know if it was like a regular range, like running and gunning, or just like the rifle range or something, but we had to hike back from somewhere in one of the hot summer days. And there was we were not stopping.
Yeah.
There was multiple heat casualties, I remember. And things are bad when some of the staff NCOs start complaining openly in front of the junior Marines or corporal or NCOs and whatnot. That's when you know things are bad, because you could see that. You could see some of the lieutenants start to be like, "What the fuck are we doing?" And I remember that time, we just kept going. Nope, we're going. It doesn't matter how many heat casualties we had. Yeah. He would not stop.
No.
It was things like that constantly.
Yeah.
Which, is that a balance of good training and intensity, or just stupidity? I don't know.
Yeah. It's almost running them ragged is like the mantra that he had in the back of his mind. Not, again, all of this to say that he really prepared us, and we'll get to that. But when I read I think any commander really should read this book. It's called Soldiers Load and the Mobility of a Nation.
Okay.
It quite literally talks about, are we putting too much weight on our guys when they're humping through, and they have to, one, get to the firefight or get to the objective, then conduct operations and then get back. And so the framework was entirely that. It's like, do we really need to add all this extra shit?
Right.
Because we would hike with the entire CLS, no, not SIF issue. We would hike with the entire SIF issue on top of rounds and everything else that, weapons, those weapons appreciation hikes.
Right. And, I honestly think that some of that was useful because going back to the first deployment, I remember we, obviously all the gear was dispersed throughout, patrol and whatnot, but we would do foot patrols and have, I don't remember what they were called, but they were basically like radio signal jamming systems or whatever to prevent remote IEDs and stuff like that. So we had, one or two people would be carrying those heavy ass systems.
Yep.
Plus a pack, if we were doing like an overnight patrol where we would go and walk somewhere and stay overnight. So we'd have our packs, we'd have all of our standard gear, our flax, our ammo, blah, 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 blah. And then we carried around at least, I think, like 2 ladders, like the collapsible ladders and stuff. And those were not light. Those were probably, 30 pounds at least. And I remember people being loaded freaking down.
To the
just like we had to have had 100 pounds on us, if not more.
Yeah.
And again, that was like patrolling.
Yep.
And it felt really stupid at the time, but it was like, well, this is also all needed equipment.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Going down range. Yeah. That workup, again, just have to say it's the one that was rent free, if I can say it, like not in a good way, but I learned a lot out of it. And there's so much, just paint a picture of how bad that workup also was. Do you remember the mount operation that we did down in San Diego?
Yes.
So we did, I don't remember if it was the mount operation. No, we did. We did an all-day mount operation, and then we decided to go on I don't remember exactly how many miles, but it was 20-plus miles hiking through
Pendleton. Well, and I think it only became double digits because we got freaking lost.
Yeah.
Remember that?
8-hour hike.
Yeah.
8-hour hike after a full day's load in the summer heat.
Yeah. And I don't remember, was the whole battalion there for that, or was that just weapons company?
I think it was just weapons, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I very clearly remember that, and I remember all of us complaining that why are we doing this right now? And then that was another good example of the senior leadership visibly and audibly showing their frustration with how dumb that was, because we were lost for a freaking while and just kept walking and kept walking and kept walking. Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Guys rolling their ankles left and right, guys MVGs, which they had the secondary and third batteries, but they're going out. So it's like flickering, whatever. And luckily the moon was out enough that you could kind of see once your eyes adjusted, but geez, you're going down some steep crevasses and
not on like hiking trails, because we were getting lost. We were like cutting through random brush and stuff, and that was not super safe.
Just memories.
Yeah.
I want to see the ORM for that, if I'm being honest. I want to see the Operation Risk Management for that hike and that entire...
Yeah.
Because then, what is it? We had like 20 minutes of sleep, and then we're right back into it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Bridgeport? What do you remember about Bridgeport?
I got into the unit right before you guys were going to Bridgeport, but I hadn't checked in fully.
Okay.
So myself, Dalton Cross, Ryan Brandhagen, the entire peer group of mine, we got there, and it was like, I missed Bridgeport.
So do you remember when you got there?
Now you're making me think of dates. Graduated. Let me go through this really fast. Graduated boot camp. Shipped in September. Graduated December's time frame. 2 days. Went to SOI. I think it would have been in February, March.
That you got to the unit.
I got to 3-7.
So I'm trying to remember back. I remember that Bridgeport package was a lot different than our first one, because the first one was like a winter package. The second one was like a quote unquote summer package, but I remember it was still pretty cold at night. So it must have been like, I don't know, early spring or something like that.
Yeah, so that timeline checks out then.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a lot of good takeaways from Bridgeport that I still have in my mind to this day. And just two quick examples going down this rabbit hole are,
Feel free.
we all laughed about how stupid this was at the time, but the guides kept talking about having a positive mental attitude, and this was in the winter package. And honestly, that stuck with me because I think Bridgeport was the most miserable thing I've ever done in my life on the first package we did, because it was so freaking cold and sleeping in snow huts or whatever that we carved out, and doing horrible hikes. So remember them constantly saying, have a positive mental attitude and you'll make it through it. I think that's, rings true for anything in life, just be positive about things. And then be aware of false peaks. Be aware of false peaks, because you're hiking up in the mountains and you think that you're almost to the top and you get to that crest and you realize that, nope, there's more peaks ahead and you just got to keep going. And I think that's so applicable to life as well. Like, don't think you're done until you're done.
Yeah.
So anyways, tangent there.
No, 100%. We'll get to that with what we're currently both doing. The one thing I have to give just props to is maybe it's the stereo or maybe it's all the stories you're hearing about how bad the first deployment was. And then you're building up this anticipation. You're thinking through all your IA immediate action drills, and you're planning for the worst case scenario. And to come to, we spent a little time. This is moving to that second deployment for you, first deployment for myself, coming to Leatherneck, spending a little time there, and then actually landing in Sabika Dam, Fob Jackson, as we called it. 9-day difference. Like the amount of training that we experienced and the preparation that we had, we were almost over prepared. So I just got to give as much shit talk as people had and all this stuff. That deployment seemed it wasn't easy, but it was nothing comparison to what we had been training for and the veracity and the intensity.
Yeah, 100%. And, thinking back again, I think that we all expected that it was going to be very similar to the first deployment. And I think probably the staff NCOs and officers probably thought that too. I don't know how much things pivoted when we got on the ground, but it was like, okay, we're not leaving the wire.
Yeah.
That seemed like, from what I remember, it was maybe a decision later in the planning or whatever.
Yep.
Right. So we thankfully didn't have to do a ton of that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But the CLS Kazakh 9 lines came in very effectively because as you remember, we were with I was about to call them JAF. Wow. That's Jordanian Armed Forces. ANSAF. And what's the other?
The ANA.
ANA. There we go. And they just experienced a shit ton of casualties. We would operate as their BS.
Right. Like multiple mass casualties.
So many. I remember multiple times, guys like my peer group would actually get called in and work on. You're just seeing a guy with no legs. You just torn to shit. But again, going back to that live tissue.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked by it because, had you worked in that capacity with the ANA and ANSAF with your first deployment, or is that something a little bit more newer in the second?
Yeah, no, we did. We had ANA, and from what I remember, they were fully integrated with us and like slept on our PBs and stuff.
That's crazy.
I think we probably patrolled with them a little bit. We definitely had interpreters, but I'm pretty sure we did some patrols with like ANA and maybe worked with the police a little bit. Yeah, so it was not unusual.
Yeah, I find that a little bit interesting. I don't know if that was a switch that happened from. I think I remember somebody saying this is quite different because we went to the mindset of now we want to train, advise, and assist them in their mission of clearing. We wanted to shift focus from us going door to door, house house, like in Iraq and the onset of Afghanistan,
Yeah.
to no, we want to train them, we want to be alongside them, in assisting them.
Yeah.
So I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but it was we did a lot more training with them in IED and all these different things.
I think so, and I think that from what I remember, the goal was really to train them to be able to fend for themselves, so they could take over, right? Because we were like, all the fobs were getting broken down.
Yep.
You know, I think we were the last Marine unit in that fob, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, correction. Who rip-towed with us? Was it 1-7? And I think it was 1-7 that rip-towed with us. Relief in place transition of authority for anybody that's listening. But they came in, and I think it was 1-7. It couldn't have been 3-4 because when we got back, we got guys from 3-4. 3-4 disbanded, anyways.
Yeah.
Separate topic, but so yeah, I think 1-7 was the last unit that actually was in that
Got it.
Sabikadam area.
Makes sense.
But they quickly egressed back to Leatherneck.
Okay.
I
Got
believe.
it.
Could be completely wrong on the units there. Don't quote me on it. So, I mean, I have you talked about your experience coming back from your first deployment. You know, I'm coming back from mine. I have my experience. What was that like for you on the second go around, coming back, and was there any changes for you?
I don't really remember too much about that, to be honest. You know, I think I was happy to be coming home, going on leave. I was fairly close to getting out at that point, so you know, I knew there wasn't going to be a ton else going on, really, training wise. Because when did we get back from that? It must have been like springtime of 2014.
Yes.
Right. So like March 2014.
March or April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Because we deployed in September, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So. You know, I was slated to get out in June of 2015, and they were trimming down the Marine Corps at that point. And so I got offered one of those like 6-month VERP packages, you know, very early exit program or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm hop on board with that, because I had a 5-year contract. So I was like, cool, you know.
Your recruiter fucked you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, got a $6,000 bonus out of that, or whatever it was at the time.
After taxes.
Yeah. So anyways, I took that 6-month option and kind of, you know, I think I had about 6 months left from the time we got home until I would get out early. And so, you know, I went and worked on the rifle range with, what do you call it, a FAP or whatever.
Yep.
That was cool.
It's FAP or TAD.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, anyways.
And so, you know, it was kind of an easy transition home from that second deployment, because my mindset was just on getting out. Yeah.
I want to run something by you before we move on to the
Sure.
transition process. Do you remember, this is during the winter, and it snowed so much that we couldn't get helos to land. No, they could land, but the problem is they couldn't take off because it was so cold.
Afghanistan?
Afghan. Do you remember that at all?
I remember something about it snowing, and I only remember that because it was like the first time it had happened in a long time in that area or something.
And the water went out.
Oh yeah.
And we couldn't get resupply on. We had enough food, but we couldn't get resupply on stuff that we gave a fuck about, like dip, like your jerky, like your whatever. And so for, I believe it was 30 days. That's why I'm trying to run this by you, but 30 days, guys were either doing baby wipe showers or just said, fuck it, I'm going to smell like shit. I remember taking the first time it opened up, the showers opened up and they got it functioning. That was the other part. It was the generator went down or something like that, and they couldn't get somebody out to fix it.
Oh yeah.
And going to take a shower, coming back, and just walking into that hooch, and just the smell was disgusting, so bad, because it was in everything.
Yeah.
It was in all our clothes. It was in all our gear. You know, you're not.
I do kind of remember that. Yeah, and again, not to like compare deployments, but I remember
Yeah.
on the first one, because we didn't have showers or anything like that, except on the fobs, which we rarely freaking went to. And I think there was probably a period of 2 or 3 months where none of us showered at all.
Yep.
Probably wore the same camis the whole time and were disgusting. So yeah, very similar. And I do kind of remember that on the second deployment, it being down for a while. And now that you mention it, I remember the snow because they wouldn't let us go in the gym.
Yep.
And it was either because the roof had actually collapsed or they thought it was going to collapse.
Nope, it did.
Okay.
Yeah, you could see. I have a photo of it where quite literally you can see a dip, and then when the snow melted, then the gym flooded.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of funny. No, but it's just the stark comparison. Like when you're around a bunch of people that stink like shit, and you stink like shit, you don't notice it. But the moment you clean yourself and you walk in, it was just. I literally gagged, and I don't think I threw up, but I had to walk outside and go like, you motherfuckers need to take showers. Like this is not conducive. Like
Yeah, that sounds about right.
oh, those pissers too, when they would at night, you had those PVC pipes in there, and I remember one time, it's kind of gross, but I decided I didn't eat my MVGs. We were on light restriction or whatever, so we weren't allowed to use. And I just was like, I know where the pisser is, whatever, and go down, take a leak, and it was like filled to the brim.
Oh yeah.
So as I'm peeing, it's spraying back at me. It's the stupid shit like that you just like look back and you're like, fuck. Memories.
Oh yeah.
Memories.
There's definitely a handful of memories
Yeah.
from that stupid freaking base. I remember one time, I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was that period of time when we didn't have, dip and cigarettes or whatever, but I was just pissed off and frustrated about something. And I ended up stepping in one of those sticky mouse traps. You remember those things?
Yes.
Somehow I stepped in one, and I think I lost my absolute mind. Just in a blind rage, I was so mad about whatever else it was that just threw me over the edge. And I think a lot of my friends made fun of me for quite a while about that.
Yeah. The other one that I just got popped in my head was, do you remember when I'm not gonna say the first sergeant's name, but maybe it was command ordered, but first sergeant that was in charge at the time would make us. It would be IDF warning, right? And he'd make us get into flak, full PPE, and go police call the fob.
Yep. Dumb stuff.
Just dumb shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Fine work. That's my motto. That's really my motto.
Fine work, yeah.
Like civilian job is just fine work. Like,
Yeah. That was one good thing that I did take away from MDR for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if this was, that must have been your time where we had those shirts made that said fine work.
Yeah.
I think I still have that somewhere. But yeah, that's a great motto.
Yeah, it's great work. Yeah. So you get back. What are your thoughts on transition? I know it's a bunch of advice about have a game plan. I'll get to what I think personally. What I advise my Marines that are being a recruiter and having had junior Marines. What I advise them on this. But what was your take on getting out in the transition process? Some guys are just gun-ho. They don't care. They go 1,000 miles per hour just going for that goal of getting out, and then come to find out they didn't really plan. Or were you more strategic in your thought process, or were you somewhere along the lines there?
I think I was probably loosely strategic. I had some goals in my mind, but not maybe a super clear defined path. I remember maybe right after that second deployment when we were doing some light training or something before I went to the rifle range. It must have been during that time, sitting around with one of the sergeants, which I can't even remember his last name. But anyways, we were talking about what do you want to do when you get out? What's your plan? What's your game plan? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to college, and I just want to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I remember saying that.
That was your answer?
It was like, he was like, dude, it's not as freaking simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I was like, okay, well, whatever. What do you know? Kind of a thing. But I think I did have a desire to go to college afterwards, and I think that was kind of painted in my head. But I just didn't know what that exact path was at the time. But I mean, that was kind of the plan. Get out, figure out how to go to school.
Fair enough. So you get out, you're thinking about going back to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Family's there, proximity, everything.
Yep.
Been away from them for, well, aside from leave, not living in Washington. What school did you end up going to? How was that process based off your plan to actually come to fruition?
Yeah, so got out. I did, what do you call it, terminal leave or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think I left in December of 2014 and went back home, with my parents, moved back in with my parents. That was the game plan. And I started working fairly quickly at one of my good friends. His dad owned still does, owns a glazing company. So he hired me on and started doing kind of that construction work, more in a shop, kind of preparing window frames and whatnot to be delivered. Did that, and I didn't start school until September, I suppose, of that year. Started at a community college. And eventually transitioned to the University of Washington, the Bothell campus,
Okay.
After a year and a half, 2 years or whatever. And then I worked the whole time I was in school, part-time, mostly doing like retail sales jobs, Best Buy, Microsoft. But yeah.
And what did you go for originally, and did you end up succeeding with that degree, or would you get your degree in?
Yeah, so when I started community college, I had the goal of just kind of going for a general business administration degree. And then it was either while I was still in community college or maybe one of my first couple classes at UW was an accounting class, and I kind of discovered that I really enjoyed that aspect of business, just the financial aspect of it. And so I continued down that path, but kind of shifted my focus to corporate finance, and marketing as well, but still graduated with a business administration degree. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I think community college gets such a bad rep. But I think it does get a bad rep because there's some individuals I know personally, that not military but civilian, who have been in community college trying to get their associates for 6 years or whatever. But I think for veterans, I just have to give this as like not pro tip, but a tip. Veterans, if you know, like you have that discipline, you have that drive, you can literally get your associates with the credits that you have from your time in service, and use it and pop it into gen ed, associate's degree, and then transfer out. It's like the fastest process because the summer you're still able to take classes.
Right.
That's what I did. I got my associates within a year, based off that, just because I was driven. I did, So I think it just gets a bad rep, and I have to get that. That's a really, really smart way of using GI Bill. Did you?
Yep. Use the GI Bill, and I think that I probably originally applied to the University of Washington, and I think that I just flat out got rejected.
Okay.
I didn't have the best grades in high school. Probably wasn't the most studious. I wasn't an idiot or anything, but I just don't think my focus was on the Marine Corps. And so I say that because I probably was not super academically prepared for that level of college anyways. And so it was a great transition to start with community college for me.
Yeah.
And very, very similar. Like that was my sole focus. I wasn't all over the place trying to do a million things. It was like, okay, I'm here to do school and finish school. So I went through every summer and, did that. Didn't get an associate's. I just went straight for my bachelor's.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think I, maybe community college for a year and a half or something, and then transitioned to the 4-year school at UW.
Yeah. I just have to put that out there as a tip, like that. Really happy because some people trash on community colleges, but it's what you make of it. It's really,
Totally.
the idea is that I think mandatory for full time to be able to get housing, it's 12 credits if I'm not mistaken. It's been a hot second since I was in it, but that funding is covering the 12 credits. But I literally got up to 21 or 20 at some points, so I was knocking out faster coursework workload, and that just expedited. That's just another tip for anybody that's currently active duty that's looking to transition. And
you know, one thing with that too
Yeah.
that I did not realize until I literally started getting freaking checks in my bank account, I had no idea that the GI Bill gave you BAH.
yeah,
I thought, oh yeah, cool, your college is paid for and stuff. But then I realized, are you kidding me? I'm getting like a 2,000, 2,400, whatever it was at the time, dollar stipend every month to go to school. The GI Bill and the VA loan are the two best benefits, hands freaking down, that people need to take full advantage of.
Yep.
But what we get like $80,000 to live off of for 4 years of school? I mean, that's amazing.
yeah.
It's crazy.
I 100% agree. I think that sometimes it's like when you're in and you're going 1,000, like that person that's going 1,000 miles per hour trying to get out, you're missing a lot of the things. You know, now I don't know if it was a requirement at the time. Now you have to go through TRS, and it's
Yeah, I mean, I think we did
talks
that.
a little bit about it, but there's so much stuff. I mean, there's state benefits too that you could look at. I don't know, just shouting that out because there's so much stuff. If you don't know, you don't know.
Well, and the other problem is, at least for me, I was so focused on getting out that it was like, okay, I got to just check the boxes for these stupid classes. So I wasn't paying attention to half what they're talking about, which is my own fault. But yeah.
I had a conversation. I'm not going to name his name, not because it's bad, but I plan to have him on the podcast. Did you ever consider, with everything you had experienced, just putting out there, you do have a Purple Heart. Did you ever go down the VA disability route? Is that something that was, or were you just so focused on getting out?
Good question. I don't think that I did anything when I was in, to be honest, and it took me quite a while to actually go and do that when I got out. I think for a couple reasons. One, I felt very guilty of taking that money, that, oh, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I'm not actually disabled or, whatever, right? Like, that's just mooching, blah, blah, blah. And it took me a while to get over that. And then the other thing is, I thought there was going to be this just insanely difficult process to go through, and that it was, I didn't want to put in the work and effort to try and do that. But eventually I did, and it was a lot easier than I thought. And I'm definitely glad that I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge benefit, be that moocher. But in the event in the future something happens, I mean, everything that came out just within the last couple of years with burn pits, the studies on that, kind of ridiculous. But I just asked that because we gave a couple of tips about GI Bill and VA home loans, and so just popping that in there too, because there's so many guys that have that guilt. I just find that guilt is such an interesting. It's pride too, really. It's pride more than anything else, because you putting that out there. You're taught. The way I look at it is, you're taught the entire time in, at least from my perspective, I can only attest to that, is that when you're in the infantry specifically, don't go to BS unless you have limbs, eyesight, and the big ones. And then you get close to getting out. It's like, where's documentation for that? Where's it's such a back and forth, So my whole idea is that Marine Corps used you as an instrument for this many years, however long you were, and however many tours. Get yours, So
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I had a lot of that pride type of talking back to me, as you said, and that stubbornness too,
Yeah. And not that we have to go down this rabbit hole, but I work with a lot of veterans in my business currently, and you'd be shocked at how many of them are complete pogues and never did a single thing, and they have 100% disability. And I never never bring that up and shame my clients, obviously,
No,
or
no.
anything, but that made me feel a lot better, even with the 60% rating that I have. Like, oh yeah, you were admin and didn't deploy and didn't
Yep.
do anything, and somehow you've got 100%. But it's like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, but there's a story there. That's what I really like about this podcast. Is there's a gentleman in my church that volunteers with. Never saw combat. Actually, never. His entire time of service was being in. He was Army, being at the recruit, whatever their equivalent of it is. Just because he injured himself so terribly.
Yeah.
Like that's a story by itself, because you signed up to do this fantastical things in your mind that you have, and whatever that may be, and you're not able to do it. That's what I'm saying. So sharing those and getting different perspectives. Not everybody that's served is, what is it, 30, this was a couple years ago, right before I left. I did this statistics for this me, I'm very analytical. I did a lot of stats work for recruiting, and it's like only 33% of the Marine Corps had ever seen a combat deployment. That number dwindles substantially for individuals that have had 2 combat deployments. It's like something like, at the time it was 17% out of that 33. So I don't know. That was a weird tangent, but all to say, everybody has their own story, and it's so cool to be able to have the opportunity to be able to, share it with whoever's watching and listening.
Totally.
So after graduating from Washington State University, Bothell campus, what was your thought process? Were you doing internships when you said you were doing part-time work? Were you doing internships as well, or did you already know where you wanted to go, the job search?
Well, when I was kind of at that tail end, maybe my last year in school, I started to have a lot more going on in my life. So I was obviously in school still. I was working at Microsoft retail, so kind of the retail stores, and it would have been a great opportunity to be able to get into corporate Microsoft. That was kind of a huge step up. And so I was kind of aiming towards that. And then I was also, I don't think I really ever did any actual internships. I don't know. I don't even think I really applied for any, to be honest. Trying to think about, that was 2019. So I was already married at the time. I had my first kid on the way as I was getting ready to graduate. We had also bought a business, a little yogurt shop, that year in 2019. And then I started looking for opportunities, jobs, as I was graduating, because Microsoft, I just could not get in that door. Yeah. And so I started working at a software startup in Bellevue as an account executive. So anyways, I say all of that because there was like a lot of different things going on in my life that specific year. My focus was in multiple places. It was still laser focused in all the different areas, but there was just a lot going on at the same time.
Did you feel like you were kind of spread thin a little bit, or?
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been spread thinner.
Yeah.
I mean, it could not have been spread thinner, but I still felt like just an immense amount of focus in every single area. Yeah. Which was cool. But
when did you said you got married or you were married at the time by 2019, then you had a child. Walk me through. Yeah, was that somebody that you knew prior to? Was that somebody you met in college? Was that? Yeah,
it was my wife, Cora. We went to high school together. She's a couple years younger than me. We did not know each other in high school.
Oh,
it's kind of a funny story. I mean, it was very close to when I got out. I was coming home from the gym, driving to my parents' house, and almost hit her at a four-way stop.
Oh, shoot.
Just going out of turn there. So anyways, hit her up on Facebook and apologized, and it was, downhill from there. So yeah, we got married in 2017, and it's been great.
It's cool. It's cool. So you just have that one child?
We have 2 boys and 1 on the way.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's great. What I don't have kids, but I ask this a lot because do you feel that when you had the first one, or maybe second one, do you feel that there was like some sort of change? I feel like I hear this often where your mind, a lot of things just get into focus and put childish ways aside as written in the text.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that there was a good shift to growing up, and we kind of experienced that going into the Marine Corps too, right? Like you have to grow up really freaking fast.
Yep.
The second you go to boot camp. A very similar experience to becoming a father. I mean, it was okay, this is your life now. Somebody else is depending on you, that is completely helpless, and guess what? You got to start sacrificing this, that, or the other immediately. You know what I mean? Yeah, so there's definitely a shift.
For guessing for the better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So 2019, you said you had all this stuff going, and walk me through from that to where you're currently at.
Well, so I started at a company called Finagraph, like I was talking about. It was a software startup, and I was essentially doing sales. I was, their first account executive. So it was a sales role. The other two retail jobs I was working, those were, sales roles, retail sales, right? That was something I knew I was good at, was sales and relationships and things like that. But it was not the right fit for me. It was a great company. I never talk bad about it. Great people. The product was just kind of not fully aligned with my passion. I'll just say that. And it was also a really far drive. I was driving like an hour and a half one way each day. And I very quickly realized how much time I was wasting in the car. And so I was only there for maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, something like that. And when I quickly had that realization, and I knew I needed to find something else that was better fitting, I was, thinking through either other sales jobs or real estate, because I had been studying corporate finance in school. I studied a lot of investing. I was kind of studying real estate investing on the side, and found that I had a really big passion for that and had some goals with real estate investing. So like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to find something like real estate that can be my main career and then support my side investing goals. And so I started playing with that idea in my head, like, okay, do I go be a realtor? Should I be like an inspector or an appraiser? And I explored all these different avenues as I was, quietly preparing to make a transition, right? And the other thing I was doing at the time was, again, because I had kind of a passion for personal finance and stuff, I was making these dumb Instagram videos just for the fun of it. And I had an acquaintance from high school whose dad was a loan officer in the mortgage business. And he was like, hey, dude, you should come and talk to my dad. You'd be really good at marketing this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, he invited me to come and, chat with his dad, and I was in this transition process. So I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, I'll hire you and teach you what you need to know, and just go and get your license, and, we'll bring you on board. So I was like, okay, perfect. And so, I gave my boss a 30-day notice, and I was like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I got my license. I left, I think it was like January 30th. And then, or maybe it was like February, end of February or something like that. It was very close to when COVID started. And so I left that job, and then COVID hit almost immediately. And they could not hire me because it was like, what's going on right now? But eventually, I think it was in April, I did get brought on board, so I wasn't in a panic for too long. And I was also running that other business at the time too.
The yogurt?
The yogurt shop, yep. And so, good timing to get in the mortgage business, because, rates got really low and stuff. And I've been doing that ever since and absolutely loving it.
You still have that yogurt business?
No, we didn't hang on to it for too long. I think we sold it at the end of 2021, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was a great experience, great learning experience in business, and COVID was a little challenging with that being kind of an in-person thing, and supply chain issues and inflation afterwards. So we got out at a good time, and that was also around the time our second son came.
Yeah.
So things were just very, very busy, and we're like, okay, this is a good time to exit this.
Smart.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it just gets spread thin, as you
Yes.
said. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you've been with that investment firm the entire time?
Yep, Guild Mortgage. So, yep, just a mortgage company, and been there the whole time, and left the branch that I started my own team, been working on that, growing it, and been there for 5 and some change years now, and wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yeah. So you said this earlier, you said you work with a lot of veterans, and is that something that you're striving to focus more, or are you kind of like equal opportunity lender, or not lender, but equal opportunity, or is there a heart with working with veterans in that capacity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I work with anybody and everybody, but the VA loan being one of our core benefits as veterans, it's also, I'm not going to sit here and talk about loans, but it is the best loan program out there, hands down. And then, of course, I love working with fellow vets because I connect with them better, than your average client. But so, it's a big component of my business, but not the only component of it. Yeah.
So with the firm that you're working, and now you've started your own team, is that primarily in Washington? How does it work is it regional? Is it, how does that work? Except I'm not aware. This is the other part that I love about this podcast. I get the chance to be able to learn different occupations, different professions. So walk me through that. Is it location-wise?
So I mean, I can pretty much lend anywhere that I'm licensed, essentially.
Okay.
So started in just Washington and would do loans all over Washington State and build relationships with real estate agents all over. And some of my really good ones are either former military themselves or military spouses or related to the military, and so build those relationships and just do a lot of loans around Washington, and then started getting my license in other states as well. And
What's that process for licensing in your occupation?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, to be honest. I mean, it's like a 20-hour course. You got to take a test, which is it's fairly difficult test, but nothing super crazy. I mean, it's not super hard to get your license. To be a good lender, it is extremely difficult. I'll say that. Like, anybody can do it, but not many people can stay doing it. Yeah.
And is that license, does that require college or university, like a degree? No.
Nope.
So a veteran that hypothetically hears what you're saying, like, that sounds pretty dope, like could hypothetically just go get the license. That's awesome.
Totally. Yeah.
And does I don't know if you know this, the GI Bill pay for that? Because I know they pay for certain certs and.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean,
I might have to check it in and pop it in later, but
it wasn't a super expensive course to take or anything. So, but I'm sure it probably could pay for it.
Yeah. Well, if it's 20 hours, I venture to say, like, maybe get housing for that month or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of curious. No, it's awesome. So you're happy with where you're at as far as what do you have any type of like, okay, this is the next thing. I really want to start this or anything in the future. I know you have a baby on the way, so maybe it's just one of those things that's on the back burner for right now, but just for you personally.
Yeah, I will say I am happy, but I'm never satisfied. And I think that's just, a mechanism of, I don't know, continuous growth. I always want to be growing, doing something, reaching new heights just because. But I'm not striving for more things so I can get to happiness, if that makes sense. I'm already 100%. Happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I love doing what I'm doing. Growing my team, growing my business. That's, a long-term process. I'm also a coach for other loan officers. So I coach them on how to be better loan officers. There's that aspect of it as well. And then, yeah, life is busy in general. Got 2 kids, one on the way, like you said, and so I'm heavily involved with my family. That's a huge priority in my life. We're heavily involved in our church. That's, a massive priority in our world. So there's not a lot of extracurricular stuff outside of those 3 things. But, eventually I would like to either buy another business or start a business. That's kind of the long-term goal. This career was really meant to have good cash flow and build cash to be able to fund another business someday. I don't necessarily want to do this forever. So yeah, I'm always looking for opportunities to start something or buy something or partner on something. But yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I hadn't seen you since you got out, and we came across each other at Spartan Race. So part of that, trying to always improve yourself. What drew you to that? Is it just the challenge? I mean, there's a lot of veterans that do Spartan races because it's just like, again, that obstacle course mindset,
yeah.
that you run through. What was the drive for you? Like, what was the?
Yeah, I
'cause
mean,
I think you told me you joined a CrossFit gym, and then the entire gym was there competing last year's No Hamish.
yeah. So, I mean, backing up a little bit, when I got out, I started just kind of going to the gym and stuff. And then I definitely let fitness just go to the side, for a while. And it was in 2022 that I realized I needed to get back to a better routine of waking up early, waking up at 5 again and going to the gym. So I started, just going to a regular, your typical gym, right? You're just lifting or whatever. And then my buddy introduced me to CrossFit, started doing CrossFit. Love that. And yeah, I mean, the Spartan race thing, it was a good handful of people from the gym that had the idea to go and do that. And, I had resisted for a long time doing anything like Spartan races or mud runs or anything because I was like, this is freaking stupid.
Yeah, why would I pay for something?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not paying for this. Like, I did all this kind of crap in the military, and it's not fun. But some of them wanted to do it, and I got over it. I was like, okay, cool, whatever, let's go do it. And it was a good time. It was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think it's such a good framework to go off. It's weird when you get out, you don't. I put it like this: you go from having your phone going off nonstop, especially me being a recruiter, last gig, to the next day you might get a text, but it's like you're no longer you're no longer the person that's in charge there, so you lose a lot of that sense of discipline. Nobody's telling you, oh, you got to go on a run, or you don't have junior Marines, so you're trying to make sure that they're getting into shape.
Right.
It's a weird thing to go from 1,000 miles per hour to I could hypothetically be nothing. Like I just sit.
Yeah.
And I guess the biggest piece of advice I give my guys, I mentioned this, is sometimes it's really good to be in that space to just sit and just because it allows you. It's good to have a general plan like you did, but it's really good to just sit and just decompress everything that you endured, experienced in your time in service, because it allows you to be fully grounded. What did I learn from this? What are the takeaways? And then where can I apply that? And then finding what your passion is.
Yep. Yeah.
Because so many guys, lose sight of who they were, who they are, out of that transition process. They forget that they are Marines. And I think that's the prime thing for this is just hearing stories for civilians to be able to understand a little bit more about what we go through on a regular basis and how every story is different.
Yeah.
No one story is the same. Like I said, experiences may vary. And then on top of that, for individuals that are still active duty, looking to transition, kind of give them like, oh, he's doing that. How did that work? What, looking back in honor of that, looking back, I mean, of course you don't regret, but if somebody was looking at doing what you're doing currently, would you recommend, is there a better route, or would you say I highly recommend going the route that I took?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't ever have regrets about anything in life, because you kind of mentioned it earlier, like we wouldn't be where we are today, without these different stepping stones and stumbling blocks and whatever. But I think that I'm pretty happy with the path that I took to get where I am. And, it was a very long-term game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that people use the GI Bill and go to school.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a general degree that you do nothing with. It's a useful resource. You're going to sharpen your mind and maybe open it up a little bit. And yeah, I mean, you definitely don't need a degree to be successful by any means, but I think that if we have that benefit, you might as well take advantage of it and learn something. What else? I mean, I think, a big part of my transition, which this was not something that I thought about or planned in my head or whatever, but looking back, I never fully had my identity stuck in the Marine Corps.
Mm.
Like, I carried that around very heavily while I was in. I was very proud of it and whatnot, but I quickly let go of that identity when I got out, or realized that was not my full identity. And I think that that's where a lot of vets get into deep trouble mentally, and I think that has to do, honestly, a lot with PTSD as well, if their identity is just fully wrapped up in the military. And for a while, I maybe swung the pendulum a little bit too far, where I didn't want anything to do with, veteran community type stuff, and wouldn't really talk about it or be involved in any of that. But my point is I think that helped me transition a lot faster and better and healthier by moving on to the next thing in my life, and not sitting there reminiscing on the Marine Corps and missing it and thinking, oh man, well, this is who I was, and now what am I, It's like, no, well, that was a great part of your life. It was a point in your life, point in time, and you can remember that and reflect on it, carry it with you, but don't let that just be on your shoulders as that's who you are forever, like
all encompassing.
Yeah.
I definitely think that your thought process on that is very good. Like, there's this is a chapter, even entering it, this is a chapter. I need to be all in on that chapter. But the moment you get out, this is a different chapter.
Right.
That's why I think it's so vital for, like I said, just to sit with what it's for a period of time, just for short, maybe, I don't know, I took a year just to sit with everything. But for me, my identity was wrapped heavily around the Marine Corps. I mean, if you're selling as a recruiter, you're selling, and so you have to believe in the product. And it's funny that you mentioned that you weren't, with that one job that you had, you weren't really seeing eye to eye. I feel like if the salesperson, good salespeople will sell anything to anybody, right? But like people that have a genuine, code, want to believe in the product.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. But now, what advice would you give to somebody that's looking to go into the military?
To go into the military? Man. Do your research ahead of time. Have a good reason that you want to go in, and what figure out what it is that you want to do and go for that thing. Have a plan. Talk to as many people as you can who have been there and done that. Learn from their experiences, and and take their experience with a grain of salt at the same time, because everybody's going to be, very different. Some people will be super jaded. Some people will say it was the best time ever. But ask as many questions as possible and prepare yourself mentally and physically for whatever it is that you're going after. That way, you do your best not to set yourself up for failure.
It's a good piece of advice. I think we covered quite a bit here. I appreciate you taking the time to be able to sit down, have a conversation, kind of reminisce on the glory days. I don't really think of it like that. What I really like about it is it's also just getting a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's the huge benefit. It's just getting a different perspective, because I could say, not that I talk too much about my time in service, as far as the events that occurred or the deployments, but it's just good to reminisce and having that time, gap from being in it. Because again, as I said, when I was when I was your junior Marine, I was like, I never want to see these motherfuckers again. And the moment I went to being a senior, whatever, you start gaining a lot of respect. You're like, okay, I made a little, now looking back many years later, I see what you're saying. You know, I see where that person is coming from. But have you ever been to Philly?
No.
No? It's a vibe.
I've heard it's pretty cool.
It's at least one time. There's two things I say to every Marine that they should do. They should go to Philadelphia and then Marine Corps Museum in Quantico, Virginia.
That'd be cool.
It's just a good time. You see guys that just got out of boot camp, see old timers, and it's just they block off like numerous one main road down there, but like numerous blocks. And it's just a great time just to be able to catch up and.
That's legit.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I've heard that they're like, maybe I've read this wrong, but are they like rebuilding Ton Tavern or something like that?
So it's gone through numerous changes, but they're going back to Ton Tavern.
Okay.
They're going back to the name of it being Ton Tavern.
That's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to go check that out someday. That'd be super cool.
250th anniversary might be. I mean, you got a kid on the way, but that might be.
Yeah.
That might be a good one. I'm just saying. I'm trying to get as many guys there, because it's just it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That was my conversation with Chris Yeakel. If you're beginning to look at purchasing a home or have questions about the process, you can get in contact with him and his team at guildmortgage.com/Chris Yeakel. That's GUILDMORTGAGE.com/Chris Yeakel, just as the name is read in the title. As always, thank you for watching. Stay Moto.